These are the headlines we're following at this hour. President Yoon Suk-yeol in Jakarta is set to hold talks with ASEAN member states on expanding cooperation on cyber, digital, and security issues. He's also set for dialogue with the Japanese Prime Minister and Chinese Premier for the Asean+3 Summit. The White House warns North Korea will pay a price for any weapon supplies to Russia for its war efforts in Ukraine amid speculation over a potential deal. Japan's release of Fukushima wastewater took center stage at Tuesday's parliamentary questioning of government officials, with the Prime Minister stressing safety standards are met. The session continues today on diplomacy and security issues. Good afternoon. We start in Jakarta, where President Yoon Suk-yeol is set to hold talks with ASEAN member states on expanding cooperation on cyber, digital, and security issues. He's also set for a dialogue with the Japanese Prime Minister and Chinese Premier for the Asean+3 Summit. Our presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will seek deeper engagement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, in line with the United States and Japan, fulfilling the pledges made at the Camp David trilateral meeting last month. That's according to Yoon's senior press secretary Kim Eun-ae, ahead of the South Korean leaders' two-way summit with ASEAN on Wednesday. Attending the annual summit for the second consecutive year, Yoon will work on putting his Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative into action, which pursues freedom, peace and prosperity in the region. The meeting in Jakarta marks the first multilateral conference Yoon attends after the Camp David summit last month, where the leader agreed with his US and Japanese counterparts to coordinate their engagement with ASEAN and other Indo-Pacific players.
This means that the Camp David trilateral cooperation system will demonstrate joint leadership and make a responsible contribution to creating a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific region. We believe that forming norms on ASEAN, which is the center of the region, will expand the scope of trade and provide a foundation for growth.
The top office says Yoon will focus on measures related to cyber, maritime security and digital innovation in particular, as they review the status of their bilateral relationship. Yoon on Wednesday will further discuss regional issues as part of the ASEAN+3 dialogue, joined by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Chinese Premier Li Qiang. As the rotating chair of the +3 countries, the South Korean leader will focus on revitalizing cooperation across the northern and southern blocs of East Asian countries. Also, as countries in the region look to de-risk from the implications of geopolitical rivalry and China's slowing economy, Yoon will strengthen economic linkages with ASEAN, Korea's second-largest export market.
As we strengthen supply chain cooperation in high-tech industries with Indonesia and the Philippines, with whom our electric vehicle and battery supply chains are closely linked, we'll also discuss supply chain cooperation measures under the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. The President will also announce a plan to strengthen support to build ASEAN's digital capacity and hold an event to meet with Korean and ASEAN's youth, the digital generation.
While Korea's exports to China contracted by over 4% last year, exports to ASEAN grew some 14.8%, with the trade volume hitting $207.5 billion, a record high for the second straight year. The Asia-Pacific region accounts for more than 60% of the world's population and gross domestic product.
To unlock this potential and engage more deeply across the broader spectrum of issue areas, President Yoon aims to level up bilateral ties with ASEAN to a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2024, upon the 35th anniversary of dialogue relations. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Jakarta.
And President Yoon will be attending the ASEAN Summit and G20 Summit at South Korea this year. Marks 50 years of diplomatic ties with Indonesia and India, the host countries. And the two countries have also emerged as significant economic partners for Seoul, namely in the electric vehicle and battery sectors. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young tells us more.
Indonesia and India, where President Yoon Suk-yeol is traveling to for the ASEAN and G20 summits, have emerged as prominent markets amid the rapidly changing global economic landscape. According to the Korea International Trade Association, although the share of South Korea's exports to the two countries is not large, shipments to India rose by more than 20% year-on-year in 2022, while those to Indonesia recorded an increase of 18.6%. India, with a population of over 1.4 billion as of this year, is considered an attractive place for investment and as a production base. In particular, the Make in India initiative by the Indian government, which aims to make the country a manufacturing hub, has led global automotive companies to establish production facilities there. According to South Korea's trade investment promotion agency KOTRA, India is the world's fourth largest global manufacturing hub for vehicles. Both Hyundai Motor and Kia have successfully entered the Indian market through local investments. In 2021, in terms of sales volume in India's passenger car market, Hyundai ranked second with a share of 17%, while Kia came in fourth. Indonesia, on the other hand, is emerging as an economic partner in terms of supply chains and economic security, especially in the electric vehicle and battery sectors. The government and state-owned firms are working on building supply chains, starting with the mining of nickel, a key material for EV batteries, to the production and distribution of batteries. With India and Indonesia both marking their 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties with South Korea this year, economic cooperation is expected to expand in various areas. KOTRA sees EVs and renewable energy as promising areas of demand for both Seoul and New Delhi. The Indian content market, which is expected to reach $31 billion by next year, is also a field that South Korea can focus on. With Indonesia, electric vehicles, battery supply chains, as well as its smart city projects are areas that South Korea can look forward to for further cooperation. 신하영, Arirang News.
South Korea is participating in one of Europe's largest defense trade shows in Poland as the lead nation. The country is expecting to expand its military presence in the European market by showcasing its cutting-edge weapons. The trade show will run until Friday, and our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
The 31st International Defence Industry Exhibition kicked off in Poland on Tuesday. For the second time, South Korea is participating in Europe's third-largest defense trade show as the lead nation. A total of 30 domestic companies are taking part in the exhibition this year, including Korea Aerospace Industries, or KAI, Hyundai Rotem, and Hanwha Aerospace. Polish President Andrzej Duda visited the Korean exhibition hall and expressed great interest in Korean-made weapon systems. KAI displayed models of the Fa-50 light fighter deployed in the Polish military, as well as the Kf-21 multi-purpose fighter, which is reportedly set to begin its initial production phase next year.
Because the Kf-21 is in the development stage, we have not been putting much effort into its promotion so far. I believe that this exhibition has become an opportunity for strategic promotion not only in Poland, but also in Europe and the entire world.
KAI further solidified its position in the Polish market by signing an MOU with the state-owned defense firm Polish Armaments Group. This is expected to pave the way for strengthening marketing activities for Korean weapons in other parts of Europe as well. Visitors were also drawn to Hyundai Rotem's K2 tank on display outdoors in between a German Leopard and an American Abrams tank. The South Korean tank is currently being used by the Polish Army.
I can feel a huge improvement to the K2 compared to the T-72 tank I used to drive. I feel an incomparable difference in the propulsion and the performance of the tank. Riding the K2 is fun.
South Korea's unique role in the exhibition is seen as a natural consequence of Poland's large-scale purchase of military equipment from South Korea in 2022. Last year, the two countries signed a landmark defense deal worth a total of $12.4 billion. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The White House warns North Korea will pay a price for any weapon supplies to Russia for its war efforts in Ukraine amid speculation over a potential deal. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
North Korea will pay a price if it provides weapons to Russia. That warning was issued by U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Tuesday during a press briefing at the White House.
Providing weapons to Russia for use on the battlefield to attack grain silos and the heating infrastructure of major cities as we head into winter, to try to conquer territory that belongs to another sovereign nation, this is not going to reflect well on North Korea, and they will pay a price for this in the international community.
However, Sullivan said that there were no indications yet that Pyongyang has provided large amounts of weapons to Moscow, but negotiations on the matter are actively advancing. The latest stern warning from the U.S. comes as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is reportedly set to visit Russia to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss a possible arms deal. Russia, however, slammed both South Korea and the U.S. for their military cooperation, saying that it goes against the idea of denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. Earlier this month, during the first session of the Preparatory Committee for the 2026 Review Conference of the Parties to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, a Russian representative criticized the fact that many countries have punished North Korea for violating the NPT, while the UN Security Council adopted several resolutions on the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. However, Russia also noted that the U.S. sent a nuclear-armed submarine to South Korea in July. The representative further criticized the alliance between the two countries, saying that both Seoul and Washington are responsible for the tensions created on the peninsula. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Japan's release of Fukushima wastewater took center stage at Tuesday's parliamentary questioning of government officials, with the Prime Minister stressing safety standards are met. The session continues today on diplomacy and security issues. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
The hot topic of Tuesday's government question and answer session was the discharge of wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. Representatives from the main opposition Democratic Party once again asked the government where it stands regarding the issue.
Japan began releasing nuclear wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant, despite concerns raised by neighboring countries, among others. Is the South Korean government for or against the discharge?
I believe you are surely aware of the government's stance. We do not oppose the discharge if it's done in a way that meets the standards. This thought is the same as that of the past Moon Jae-in administration.
Representatives from the People Power Party decried the DP's stance on the matter, saying that the government and the party will protect South Korea from fake news and horror stories. The PPP also stressed the importance of pushing for one of the Yoon administration's goals, the launch of the Korea Aerospace Administration.
It's an important matter for the future of our country. The bill has to be passed in September in order to establish the administration within this year, so we can become the 7th space power.
On Wednesday, questions will focus on diplomacy and security. Other issues scheduled to be discussed this week are the economy and education. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Staying on the domestic front, recent data shows that people in South Korea are getting married later. According to an annual report released by the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family on Wednesday, the average age of those who got married for the first time in Korea last year was 33.7 years for males and 31.3 for females. That is up 0.3 years for men and 0.2 years for women, compared to 2021. It's also the highest ever figure since relevant data started being compiled in 1990. There were 148,000 first-time marriages in 2022, a drop of 0.6% compared to the year before. Last night, the capital Seoul and Incheon saw a September tropical night, marking the first tropical night in September in 88 years. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration on Tuesday, other cities including Cheongju, Jeju City, and Yeosu also experienced a tropical night from late Monday to early Tuesday. Seoul has experienced a September tropical night 4 times since 1904, when the country began keeping official climate records. A tropical night occurs when the temperature does not fall below 25 degrees Celsius from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. the following day. Now turning overseas, a fierce storm that has caused flooding in southern Brazil has killed at least 21 people. According to the governor of state of Rio Grande do Sul on Tuesday, the death toll caused by a climate event is the region's highest, as over 50 cities were battered by heavy rain, hail, and strong wind. 15 of the 21 reported deaths occurred in one house in Mokum. And as of Monday night, 1,650 people have been made homeless by the storm. Experts have classified the storm as an extratropical cyclone and say global warming is causing such low-pressure weather systems to form abnormally faster and stronger. Korean operatic pop tenor Lim Hyung-joo performed in Mongolia at the end of Mass by Pope Francis. On the stage at Ulaanbaatar's Steppe Arena on Sunday, Lim sang 3 songs, Ave Maria, Panis Angelicus, and You Raise Me Up. According to his agency DG&Com, the Pope invited Lim to Bishop's house in Ulaanbaatar a day after the Mass. Lim spontaneously sang Ave Maria by Cassini right in front of the Pope and then expressed his infinite gratitude. Pope Francis, who has been in Mongolia since September 1st, is the first Pope in Catholic history to visit Mongolia.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the United States, the chairman of the Proud Boys, a far-right militant organization, has been sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in the January 6 Capitol riot. Enrique Tarrio was given the sentence on Tuesday over multiple charges, including seditious conspiracy. This for attempting to forcibly prevent the peaceful transfer of power from then-President Donald Trump to current President Joe Biden. The 39-year-old was handed the longest sentence out of anyone who has stood trial in relation to January 6. Prosecutors had sought 33 years. Although Tarrio was not in Washington during the riot, he was found to have helped coordinate the group's involvement. He is the last of 5 Proud Boys to be sentenced. Other members received prison sentences ranging from 10 to 18 years. Cuba says it has uncovered a human trafficking ring recruiting Cubans to fight for Russia in Ukraine. The Cuban Foreign Ministry said on Monday that the ring is operating both locally and in Russia and is trafficking Cubans to fight in the war zone with the Russian military. The ministry did not specify who is responsible, but said it is trying to dismantle the network. This comes after social media reports by Cubans in Russia's military said they were tricked into joining and were being mistreated after refusing to fight. Russian media had also previously reported that Cubans were joining the fight in Ukraine in exchange for the promise of Russian citizenship. Cuba and Russia are longtime allies, but Cuba has stressed that it is not part of the war in Ukraine. Russia has not commented. The United Nations has warned that harvesting sand from the ocean floor is causing irreversible damage to marine life. It said Tuesday that sand dredging ships vacuum up some 1 million truckloads of sand a day. This also removes from the ocean the microorganisms that feed local marine life, causing major environmental damage that is difficult to recover from. The warning follows findings released by a new platform that monitors dredging activities. Marine sand is mainly used in construction as it's better suited than other types of sand. It's not heavily regulated, but some countries, including Indonesia and Thailand, have banned marine sand exports. And finally, less than 3 weeks after winning the Women's Football World Cup, Spain's head coach Jorge Vilda has been fired. Announced on Tuesday, his sacking comes amid the ongoing fallout over a kiss scandal involving the president of the Spanish Football Federation. Vilda has also faced criticism since last year, after 15 players left the team and demanded his resignation over a number of issues, including inadequate training techniques. The 42-year-old has been replaced by a former player, Montse Tomé, the team's first female head coach. Tomé had been part of Vilda's coaching team since 2018. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's early September and we don't usually expect to be under heat wave advisory around this time of year. However, much of the western regions is under a heat advisory with highs in the 30s this afternoon under sunny skies, except in East Coast regions with 5 to 20 millimeters of rainfall expected. Then Jeollado provinces and surrounding areas in Jeju Island will see passing rain this afternoon. Now, especially those in Jeollado need to be aware of heavy sudden rain. Meanwhile, coastal regions in Gyeongsang-do will be quite windy all day today with a wind advisory being in place. It's quite muggy in rain-affected regions with a high of 32 degrees in Gwangju and here in Seoul. Dazzling sun is shining down on the rest of the country with high UV rays, so sun protection items are a must, especially sunglasses to protect your eyes. Bright skies will stay with us as afternoon heat continues hovering in the 30s, but at least we won't struggle to get a good night's sleep due to the uncomfortable heat. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
For the next couple of days, Seoul will be filled with art vibes all day and night. Two big international art fairs, Korea International Art Fair and Frieze, are kicking off today simultaneously in Seoul, with 330 galleries from around the world taking part. The exhibitions will be held in COEX, but the party begins in the evening, with galleries and museums offering night tours, talk shows with artists, and DJ parties. Today they're happening in the Cheongdam area in southern Seoul, and tomorrow the central Samcheong area. It will turn the entire city into a huge contemporary art museum. So why don't you make your own map to enjoy the Seoul Art Nights? That is all for today. Thanks for watching.